Hi. You've built the empire, the wealth, the accolades, the respect. Everyone sees you as the success story, as the one who has achieved what they are hoping to achieve or what they think they will never achieve. Yet in the middle of the night, when no one's watching, you ask yourself, is this really it? Is this what it's about? Because you've done it all and you've achieved it all. And yet there's that quiet ache, the ache every single overachiever feels, that all the energy, all of the time, all the work has gone into this. Everything has been focused on this level of success, and you've made it. And yet there is an ache, there's an emptiness that you can't define. That how do you do that? How do you fill it? How do you make you a part of what you've achieved? It's almost as if it's all out there and there's a separateness from you. You and it is separate. And yet it's a weight you carry on your shoulders all the time as if it's a part of you. That quiet ache, really, it's loneliness, it's health issues that can show up when you least expect them, that feeling of disconnection. With the kids, if they ever call at all, they may just talk to their mom or say this perfunctory hello and move on because the relationship isn't there because you weren't there. You were so busy building the success that you've achieved. And it really comes down to a fact that the price you paid was the intimacy you sacrificed, the vitality that's really left who you are, an identity that's addicted to performance. It's addicted to that next success. Even when in the past those wins were like, I did it, I made it. At this point in time, the win is just a win. You did it because you were supposed to. You succeeded because you know how to do it. And there isn't that passionate excitement anymore. There's just, yep, next. And then on to the next stress, on to the next achievement, the next project, the next whatever merger, whatever it is you're doing. But there's an emptiness. There's not that aliveness. There's not that passion. There's not that vibrancy that you brought in when you first started, or even when you were middle level, when it was still fun, still a challenge, and still the excitement of growth. Now you're there. So it's really much more about sustaining than it is about growing. It's more about holding on, creating that security. And where do you go from here? What's next? It really does begin to have a high price, a really high price. And what happens there is you've got the money, and it shows an alignment with what you put in, and yet it doesn't, because the money doesn't show you what you've missed. It only shows you what you've achieved, the level of success you have, or your value relative to others in your industry or at your level. A client of mine, we'll call him Michael. He'd done it all. He had achieved everything. He made it. He made it to the top. He had built and sold a company for over $100 million and sold it because there was no place else to go with it. From his perspective, he had reached the end of what he could do with it. So it was really what's next? Where do I go? And there was that thought of not just what do I achieve, but where do I go? What do I do with my life now? What comes next? On paper, he had it. He had a house in Manhattan. He had a vacation home in Palm Springs. He was on a number of boards. So his position of royalty, if you will, in the industry was established. He had it all. But invitations kept coming, but he was exhausted. And most of those things he really didn't want to do anymore. He had nothing to prove. They were just things to keep him busy, to keep him out there, to keep him known, to keep him in the right circles, But when he woke up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, he felt completely empty. There was nothing more for him to do. He was busy for the sake of being busy. That's an awful feeling because there's no meaning, there's no purpose, there's no way to get fed doing that. It truly, even at that level of theoretical success, it feels like you're surviving rather than living. You're surviving rather than thriving. You're surviving rather than being so excited to wake up every day and find something new to do, to find another way to bring out another skill you thought you had, but now you want to just run with it and get the excitement, the joy of developing it. It's not there, and what ends up happening is the marriage is strained. As I said, the kids rarely talk. And yet you're spending a lot more time at the doctors, whether that is because of high blood pressure, or God forbid, because of cancer, because of some other illnesses that are starting up. And the stress is just killing you. You have the money to buy anything you want except peace of mind. That's not something you can purchase. It's not something you can go out and get. It's something you need to discover within yourself. And it's a very, very different process. Absolutely. Through our work together, what he discovered is that ache really wasn't about failure. He didn't fail. He achieved everything he wanted to achieve. And now that the company was gone, it's like, where do I go next? Who am I if I'm not in this company? Who am I if I'm not doing what I've done for the past 30 years and done well? And who am I was really the question. Who is he and what did he want to create in the future? Who did he want to become in the future? What did he want his life to look like in the future? Dramatically different. And the biggest piece I could help him with was reframing this stage of his life. This wasn't about failure. It wasn't success between success. This was an invitation to become so much more of who he was, to discover those parts of himself that got left way back there when he was moving towards achieving, to discover those parts of himself that were put aside so that he could reach that goal, so that he could achieve that level of success, whatever that was, because that level kept changing. It was making 10 million in the industry, making 20 million, making 30 million, making 40 million, and on, and then needing to keep up so that he wasn't outpaced. He didn't lose to the market, to another company. And so now all of a sudden, it really wasn't about the joy of creating. It was about surviving. So that even once the company was sold and he walked away with 100 million, he was still surviving. And that's the part that really needs to be looked at. It doesn't matter your level of success. Survival is not the way of life we're called to live. Survival is not what feeds you and brings you joy and passion in your life. You need to find out, what is the meaning of life? What do you measure it by now, since the scoreboard that you're familiar with doesn't work anymore? And so it really becomes, what's your value system? For Michael, he ended up reclaiming intimacy in his relationships, not just with his wife, and that was the greatest level of intimacy, but with his kids. Who were they? Who are they becoming with grandkids? Who were they? Could he be a part of them becoming whoever it is they were becoming? Could he actually be on a day-to-day basis a part of their life, a week-to-week basis, rather than a drop-in when he wasn't away traveling or doing something? And a sense of purpose needed to be found. When you have that, you have a sense of aliveness, a sense of vibrancy, a sense of joy, so that who you are, the power you have, what you possess, is really experienced. When you walk in a room, somebody doesn't just see an authority. They see somebody who is truly alive, living their life, vibrant in their life, going along and being at a level of life force, a level of passion, a level of excitement, and a level of peace that every one of us deserve. That is really, for me, what the focus is in working with others. It's what about that level of peace that allows you to have that vibrancy, that passion, and that joy. It's so much greater than playing the game, than struggling after the next 10, 20, 30 million to achieve it. I want you to have all of that and more, but from a very different place, from a place of achievement and success of life, of being alive, being vibrant, and being the you that you truly want to be. That fills that quiet ache of success, that dissolves it, that takes it away, that fills that spot with something so much more. So there's no more staring at the ceiling at night. There's simply rolling over and loving the life you've created. I wish that for you. Thanks.